now joined by Noah Rothman, Associate Editor for HotAir.com. Hello, Noah.
How are you doing? What's going on? Good to see you.
Well, a lot of good stuff up on your website, and I want to go to a couple of things written by you. First of all, today's Washington Post had what I consider to be a hit piece on Scott Walker. Gratuitous, nefarious-sounding headline and story. Ooh, why did Scott Walker? Questions linger over Walker's, leaving college, and it's a bunch of nothing. And yet, of course, we don't know Barack Obama's grades, even though Donald Trump offered him $5 million to his favorite charity to release his grades. That's not a problem to the media. And then you talk about hearkening back to when Walker went to London and to England and made some remarks that the media blew up as a gaffe like they did with Romney. And your headline is NBC News is saying that they would have condemned Scott Walker no matter what he said in London. Explain that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of editorial on my part, but NBC News' first read team actually criticized Scott Walker for overlearning the lessons that were taught to Chris Christie, who himself overlearned the lessons that were taught to Mitt Romney when he traveled to London and was accused of gaffing it up by merely echoing the concern about the London Olympic security that was in the British tabloids. What they criticized Scott Walker for here was he punted on the evolution question, but he also punted on issues relating to ISIS and the general conduct of America's foreign affairs by President Barack Obama. What Scott Walker was doing there was deferring to the tradition of not criticizing presidents while on foreign soil. And NBC News essentially said, well, that doesn't mean you don't have to say anything. You can say something. You can do some criticism. God forbid he had done any criticism whatsoever. The wrath would have been unendurable. So they essentially admitted that, yes, we criticized him for not, we would have criticized him no matter what he did.
Yeah, that is that's a rare kind of admission, accidental admission from NBC. Let's move on to Carol Costello here. Carol Costello recently apologized for what she said about America and Ukraine. But it struck me, right away, boom, that she, of course, never apologized on air for just thinking that the audio sound of Sarah Palin's daughter explaining how she was attacked by a man was the best sound ever. So talk about how you weigh those two events, the apology and the non-apology.
Yeah, well, she was really ad-libbing when she was taking some delight in a physical assault committed on Bristol Palin. So she really should have apologized for that, and she never did. She never offered an on-air apology. She apologized in a statement to Politico's Dylan Byers. But that was the end of her criticism, or her self-criticism there. Here, the issue at play here was there was a chyron, a sub-banner that ran on CNN that called Ukrainian troops pro-U.S. troops. Which was an invaluable gift of propaganda to Moscow and the quote-unquote pro-Russian separatists who are actively destabilizing Ukraine. And so she apologized for that personally. But it wasn't her fault. She didn't write that chyron. She didn't approve of it and send it out over CNN's airwaves. CNN should have issued an apology for that and clarified the error. To my knowledge, they haven't.
No, you're absolutely right, to my knowledge as well. All right. This case in North Carolina, Craig Stephen Hicks, I believe the guy's name is, who shot 3 Muslim students. Apparently, and I know you may not be on board with this, but that's why I want to talk to you. You posted a story about this today on HotAir.com over parking and noise. He's had run-ins with these 3 before, or at least a couple of them before, over parking and noise. His wife says he was obsessed with parking and noise. Turns out he was an atheist, and he shot these people. And the media coverage, a lot of it, is they're jumping to a conclusion that this man did this as a hate crime because he hated Muslims, because they wore headscarves. And I just don't see it until there's some proof of it.
Yeah, we don't have any proof of it. I think we have to defer to local law enforcement, which says that this was not a hate crime. And we're talking about local. By local, I mean state level. They say that this is not a hate crime, that this was generally just somebody who was outraged over this parking incident, which had been going on for some time. We don't have any other evidence to suggest otherwise. So to impugn this character and his motives, even though he was stated self-described anti-theist, as somebody who's not only atheistic, but who doesn't believe anybody else should be theistic, We don't know whether or not that motivated him to do anything violent in this case. So to that extent, we do have to do some deference. That being said, this guy was clearly a progressive atheist. He was a fan of secularist institutions like the Rachel Maddow Show and Neil deGrasse Tyson. So to the extent that there's some motivation there, you can say that there is some smoke, but we just don't know whether or not there's fire. And to cover it like that, a lot of people want it covered like that, and that would be leaping to a conclusion that I don't think is justified.
Right, and you know what? I really haven't heard the media say that Rachel Maddow should be held responsible for this shooting the way they went after Rush Limbaugh and Sarah Palin for the Gabby Gifford shooting. Hey, always great to talk to you, Noah. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, my pleasure. All right, folks, coming up at the bottom of this hour, 4:30 Eastern, we're going to open the phone lines up to our viewers to discuss President Obama's treatment of Israel and whether you believe that it's that the dropping murder rates across the country and the dropping crime rates are related to and coinciding with the increase of concealed carry permits, as one or more studies suggest. So to weigh in on either or both of these topics, here's where you call me at. 844-741-3100. 844-741-3100. So we'll get to hear from you after the break.